Nerves, man, nerves.
What's going on with you?
What? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Man, movement. Movement always makes. You ever been in the car when the car first moves?
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't expected for it to move when the train starts?
Right.
And people haven't been told they need to grab their seats yet. Everybody, when the train moves, everybody kind of jumps. Gets all nervous, trying to hurry up and find a seat so they can be comfortable when the movement comes.
All right.
So there's a lot of movement going on. Growing up in plain English terms was no joke. You know, it was the stereotypical hood. You know, the lights and sirens in the middle of the night, the helicopters flying through with their lights flashing in our windows while they were chasing somebody down the street. You know, I was 15 years old the first time I went to a funeral because one of my boys got killed. I lived a practical life. I lived a practical, everyday reality. We didn't have a whole lot of money. My parents were apart. I mean, they were still friendly. They were still friends, but they were apart. They weren't together while I was growing up. So I was raised in a single-parent household. Me and my sister were. And like I said, we didn't have a lot. And so I had to learn how to deal without and to compromise those things that I wanted, but that we didn't have access to. And when I see people in front of me right now, I can relate to almost every one of their stories as to how they end up in court. Not excusing it and not saying there aren't consequences for what they do, but by all means, at least being able to say, I feel you, I understand. Now let's figure out how we can do something that will prevent you from coming back in front of me again because you now have some opportunities that you didn't know existed. People grow up under circumstances where we come from not realizing that there's opportunity. Seeing that, seeing people come in front of me who say, there's nothing out there, there's no hope, there's nothing for me. I can say, absolutely, I'm here, I know you can't get here, or at least further than you are, so let's turn on a light bulb and see if we can give you some light that you may not have realized was there before. How am I making a difference? Well, you can ask the individuals who I've looked into the eye and said, I tell you what, you tell me what your sentence should be. Because when people come in here and they admit that they're wrong, most of the time they're willing to accept whatever penalties the court is willing to offer. And so I'll give them that choice. I'll give them a choice. I mean, I'm not saying, all right, you can either walk out the door or come and give me a handshake. I mean, some real choices. And I let them have to think on what may be the appropriate sentence. How do I make a difference? I make a difference because I'm very careful. When I'm sitting on the bench and someone is looking at me and they're trying to figure out what's going on or why they're there or what the conclusion of the court is or what the law is, I'm careful, number one, to explain procedures. I'm, number two, careful to explain why and how I arrived at my decision. And I do that for transparency. If people are saying the court's not fair and they think there's some backroom deals going on or there's something they can't see and all of a sudden they have a conclusion but don't understand why that conclusion was reached, then I think it helps for the court to be transparent. You may not ultimately agree with why, with the decision itself, but if you understand A to Z how the decision was arrived at, then it's less of an argument that there's something nefarious or something unfair about the whole process. And that's why I'm very careful to explain. And I think that makes a difference. I think people walk away from the court saying, hey, I don't like the fact that I'm going to have to do 6 months in jail or 3 months in jail or that I'm going to have to pay a fine, but I at least appreciate that the judge explained everything and I can see how the judge arrives at that conclusion. I can certainly see that. Alternative sentencing. Well, alternative sentencing, just to be clear, means something other than the normal. What's the normal? A fine, jail time, slap on the wrist is what people coin the phrase. Alternative sentencing suggests a more creative way of dealing with individuals who have been found guilty of crimes. It may be something like ordering someone to perform community service. And if someone, for example, is engaged in very dangerous behavior as a juvenile, 18, 19 years old, that we know from practical experience is probably going to end up leading them either dead or in jail for the rest of their lives, then having them as part of that sentence to serve 100 hours of community service working in a morgue or working in a mortuary or working in a cemetery where they have to clean up around dead bodies because they're going to be there soon. Creative sentencing or alternative sentencing may be things like having people stand on the corner with the sign after they run from the police and to tell the whole world, I ran from the police and I got caught, and put that in the community where they feel ashamed that the people who they grew up with, the aunts, the uncles, the friends, parents who they know will see them out there in a bit of shame so that they may be less likely to do it again. Alternative sentencing suggests to me motivating individuals to see things from a different perspective and not just tossing someone away in a jail and letting them back out. Because what's the reality? If you lock somebody up, they're going to get out. And if you just lock somebody in a jail cell, keep them away from the public for 30 or 60 days, and that's all that you do, well, what lesson is learned? What reason is there for them to do something differently than they did before they came to jail? How's my life changed? Man. How's my life changed? Really, I hate to say it, I don't know that my life has changed. I don't think that my life should have changed. When I was going through this process to become a judge, I had to fill out a long questionnaire. I mean, it had a lot of questions about who was I and what motivated me, and I answered it. I talked about the fact that how I grew up. And I talked about the fact that, I lost friends when I was young, and my grades weren't all that hot when I was growing up. I talked about the fact that I love hip-hop, and that I do poetry, and that I'm a strong, faithful believer, and that God has shown me some incredible things in my life. And that's the person who I was before I became a judge. It's the person that I was when I was filling out those forms and arguing cases that the governor said, I like that in him. That the committee who was reading those forms and who interviewed me said, that's what we like. And so I think I was pretty deliberate in the process of becoming a judge, telling myself I'm not going to change. I'm going to continue to be a faithful individual. I'm going to continue to pray to God every day. And I'm going to let him continue to lead me because he's led me this far. So why am I going to change just because I got a position? So why am I a different person now? I think I've seen more things in the past couple of years. I've been turned on to a couple more things that have made me laugh than before. But as far as a different person, no. I still believe in being, at all my children's soccer events and piano events. I still serve actively in my church. Haven't changed my role in church at all. I still hang out with my friends. I still do poetry. I still sit and read and study and play video games. So how have I changed? I've gotten 2 years older. That's about how I've changed. Well, Walter, the people that I see come in front of me are there for different reasons. Sometimes it really is just that youthful indiscretion, that single mistake that somebody committed, and they're sorry for it, they're remorseful, and you can reasonably expect they won't be back there again. Then there are people that because of their circumstance, they haven't had the opportunity to know that there's value in getting an education. They haven't had a reason to know there's value in actually taking advantage of job opportunities. They haven't seen the value in it. So they don't realize that they should pursue those opportunities. And so they think that the system is an okay place to be. Not realizing until it's way too late and they have a 3 or 4 page record and have denied themselves the potential opportunities that they may have had before then, why it should have been avoided in the first place. So I don't think that you can put all folks who come into the the reality is on a daily basis we have between 50 and 80 cases on an average day. And out of those 50 to 80 cases, the reason that they're there runs the gamut. From alcohol and drug issues, to mental issues, to hopelessness issues, to one minor mistake, to false arrest issues. And police, falsely indicating that somebody did something that they didn't do. That also does happen. So it really has to be assessed on each individual basis based on that individual's circumstance and based on what the facts are.